Oi, oi, Savaloy! It's if it isn't Chris Prairie Mandle.
I thought I recognised you from another dimension.
It's me. I'm the other side of a mirror, but here I am. Welcome.
Just put our hands up,
standing on top of a makeshift cottage, kind of staring at you, wondering if you can see me or not.
Yeah.
Welcome, people. This is quite sad. This is the first time that we've had like a final episode of the show. House of Dragon is back in production. We've not yet reached the end of Thrones. Succession is rumbling on for another 7 weeks or so. But this is the final discussion about the OA. We have reached the end. This is a talk about the final 2 episodes of part 2 of Brit Marling's behemoth kind of like concept album of a series. Apologies that it's taken us so long to get this up. Succession kind of bowled us over in terms of how long we ended up talking about it, and etc. So very, very sorry. We clearly bit off a bit more than we can chew doing 3 shows simultaneously. I don't think we'll be doing that again. But, so Chris, you don't need to tell me your initial reactions right now, because, listeners, I said to Chris, I WhatsApped him, I said, let me know when you've watched it, because I want to get your kind of like immediate reaction. And if you're listening to this, you'll know what I meant, because of the final 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or whatever it was. And by the power of technology, Chris sent me a voice note on WhatsApp, and I just want to play it now. And I'm going to stick this up on TikTok and the old Insta, so that Chris has to sit here listening to himself.
Listen to it.
This is what Chris sent to me on the 30th of March at 7:15 in the evening.
Oh my god. I have just finished it. Like, what in the actual fuck? That was absolutely amazing. I had sort of a feeling it was about to get really meta. I think you maybe said it gets really meta at some point, so I wondered if there'd be a show. I thought there might be more like like some kind of show within a show. But it was beautiful, and it kind of it does work. Like, it doesn't feel like they just did it to try and fuck with people. It feels like part of the message about the fact they're always going to be in each other's lives. It feels like such a clever way to address that. The Michelle Buck stuff, that was fascinating. Kareem, I'm kind of like, I maybe just need to read a bit about how that all went down, and what exactly happened. But yeah, that was astonishing. I thought it was so clever. And just such a shame that we're never going to get resolution, and we're never going to get to see more. It was such a shame. What an amazing way to end a season, and what an amazing third season and beyond that we've been denied. Just wanted to send my immediate thoughts. Absolutely blown my fucking face off, basically. I can't believe how good that was.
There we go. Look at that. That's
wow. So articulate.
So articulate. So yeah.
Blew my fucking face off.
Blew my fucking face off. You turned into me. That was like that was me leaving a Google review for a restaurant.
That was seconds after it finished as well. So that was like the unfiltered top line. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a pretty. I imagine most people thought that watched it. Maybe with a bit more of a sprinkling of, hang on a sec, I don't get what just happened.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the very, very end.
Yeah,
and then we'll work backwards. So
which was the thing that I was so keen for you to watch. There was that and the octopus. I was just like, these are just like the bits that just set this program apart.
Yeah. So the ending kind of the main thing is that Hap, or Dr. Percy, first of all, has giant robots now in the garden.
Massive
rather than the
robots.
Little robots that we saw a few episodes ago. These giant sort of like sculptural cubes that turn into robots to initiate the movements, and he took them, or he opened some
portal,
slipstream into another dimension.
Yeah.
OA joins him.
Yeah.
And she wakes up, and she's on the set of a TV show. As
on the set of the OA.
Yeah. But you know, just on the set of something is being filmed, and we find out that her name is Brit, Hap's name is Jason, and they are the actors playing the characters. And so this dimension is like...
And they're married.
And they're married, which is... Because isn't the guy that made the OA with Brit her husband?
I don't know.
Possibly. So does he not exist in this universe?
I guess not. He didn't get a cut. It's just some cut.
He'd be like,
He just lived out this cuck thing. It's just like
in this other universe, he's like.
I've written this. Bear with me, love. I've written this separate parallel universe where Jason Isaacs fucks you, and I'm okay with that.
I watch it.
Just putting it out there.
It's weird. So that's basically where the third dimension is.
Yeah, I think
very different to the other two because it's.
There's infinite. I mean, this is the multiverse. You know, this was the multiverse before Doctor Strange made it into the cinema. Before Into the Spider-Verse. Was anything? This is the OG OA. This was So the implication was that there are infinite of them. You know, there's infinite parallel multiverses, a concept which we're all almost bored of by now. But the danger and the problem was that by Nina, Prairie, OA being taken the way that she was, she would not know from whence she had came. Which was basically, I'm pretty sure that the creators of Spider-Man No Way Home fucking watch this, because that is basically the ending of the last Spider-Man out.
That's right, yeah. But let's kind of go through. So Hap said he wanted to. There's this sort of thing in the last couple of episodes that they're always going to be in each other's lives in every universe.
They're connected. So again, elements of Lost. You know, there were heartbeats of Lost throughout this. There was the moment where Homer got his kind of like his memory back.
Very Lost season 6.
Which is exactly the same as Jack and
Kate.
Kate? No, not Kate. What was her name? I did this last time. They were at the drinks machine.
That's Sawyer and Juliet.
Sawyer and Juliet.
Yeah.
That was exactly the same thing. They kind of just their hands touched the other side of the glass, which replicated what happened in the hexagonal cell. Sorry.
So
I'm blabbing.
The idea is that OA and Hap are kind of yin and yang, always going to be in each other's lives, and she is a force for good, and he is a force for destruction in a lot of ways. But there's also this idea
disruption, I would say, rather than destruction.
Yes, that's true. Yes, because actually, also it's like maybe the universes that you have experienced where he's imprisoning you. He's just been incapable of finding you through more holistic
normal ways. Right. Yeah.
So in some versions, as the one that they go to, they are, let's presume, a happily married couple.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Homer realized in Dimension 2 who OA was. He remembered his life from the other dimension, but then he was shot. So presumably he also goes into that dimension with them, or not. He'll be in that third dimension, but this third one seems so far removed if we think of the fact that they're presumably in America.
Yeah.
You know, Nina in the car accident in Dimension 1, presumably that hasn't happened either, but something has caused that woman to be raised completely differently. So
as Brit Marling. Yeah.
As Brit Marling, yeah, exactly. And then there's just kind of so much to think about.
It's almost too much. It's almost like this. Well, this is the problem. This is the inherent problem: is the fact that we don't know. It will never be explained, and you have to assume that no matter how clever Britain and the makers were, that there will probably be elements they'll think we'll sort that out by the time we get to season 3. or will work that one out.
And I thought also, even with the greatest love in the world for the show, you have to take the third season somewhere else, because we've had the spend a season remembering your life from the first season, so they have to take it somewhere new. And clearly they were just going really out there with this is going to be really complicated, but it's also going to be really meta. And and we had the same thing where there's an ambulance, Steve cycling after, because Steve managed to jump.
And this is, I suspect that like season 3 may have been more about Steve, may have been like him trying to get to Brit Marling whilst they were filming the OA, and he was like, hang on, I don't know, who knows, because he managed to kind of like...
So clever.
He managed to kind of simultaneously appear at almost the same time, at the same point of the story as as OA appeared outside the school in the Dimension 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He kind of like...
just at the end.
So many kind of like weird kind of things. We'll never know, and that's the frustrating... Welcome to... So you've now joined the new club, which is like, fucking hell, why did they cancel the OA? Can you understand why they cancelled it? Can you, if you would... Bear in mind, this was back in 2019? No, 2017, something like that.
So, can I understand why they cancelled it? Yes. I can, purely in the sense that Netflix was starting to look at the numbers, even though, when it launched their streaming, the whole idea was, we're going to give shows to people that don't traditionally get shows. And their first wave was... It was diverse. It was like, hey, what if we do a show about women in prison, and we've got like queer women and trans women and everything like this. They sort of got to this point where they were like, oh, it turns out that like that's not making us any money. And so I can see why a show like this, which is really hard to explain, they don't really want to see a future in it. But I think it's just so frustrating, because I think there's just nothing on television since then, or even at the same time, that has that singularity to it, really. And
exactly.
I think I always use the word conviction in this podcast, but the reason that it works is that there's a feeling that it is in service of some greater idea. And I thought in the first season, it's not the first show to talk about jumping and alternative dimensions. You mentioned all the Marvel things, but it's the first time for it to feel really understood as a concept. And you only have to look at, like, I don't know if you've seen Ant-Man, but like
I've seen every
Paul Rudd meets like 300 Ant-Men from different universes in it.
Oh yes.
They all look exactly the same, talk exactly the same, and you're just like, for Marvel particularly, you have this multiverse of opportunities for storytelling, and your only way of conceiving Paul Rudd is that they're all the same.
Yeah.
And they all do the same thing. They've all got the same powers. And I just find it so alarming how uninspiring it is. But this show, it really does pull you in emotionally when it talks about you're always going to find the person that you're supposed to be with in every universe.
Yeah.
You'll always find them. And you'll find the people you don't like either. But there's something so soothing about this idea that, like, if you want the person you're always meant to be with, you have to put up with the shit you want to get away from as well. Every dimension.
Yeah, 100%.
I just found it really...
It's the push and pull of it all, yeah.
Yeah, I found it really soothing.
That's why I think this owes a lot to Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
It really does. And if you're listening to this and you haven't read the book of Cloud Atlas, or even watched the film Cloud Atlas, I really enjoyed the film. I'd read the book first, because it's a lot...
I haven't read the book. I saw the film.
Oh no, please go.
I mean, I thought the film was a bit of a mess, but there's enough in there. You know what they're going.
The book is absolutely incredible, like brilliant. But it's the same concept, which is that no matter which life we're living, we are connected to people, different people, good and bad, whether we like it or not. And there's nothing that you can do about that. And there's something so romantic and base about that. On a human level that I think is just really comforting to everybody, because it's like, whether or not you're a widow and you just think, well, there's infinite numbers of me with them somewhere else, or just things like that, really. Even if it's just your pet, or I'll always...
I agree.
I just think it's just something that we, whether or not that's stupid, and it's a kind of like and it is a kind of forebearer to religion in one way. But,
it is, yeah.
You know,
it's something to cling on to, and it's something to get, you know, a bit of fuel from. And the woman, I can't remember her name, but Hap's mate, who seems to be able to jump through the dimensions, she talks about fuel. She talks about that idea of sustenance. And in the first season, we saw it manifesting in like belief in the OA, and then this season it was much more like love. And that's what Hap kind of jumped with. It was like, I'm going to the place where we're together.
Yes.
And I don't get the impression he knew he could do that.
No, I think they all just jumped like feet first, like completely.
But he
just like...
seems to understand that like it wasn't the same to be with OA in a dimension where she hated him. He had to find her. And it's amazing. And you know, you said that they're infinite, and maybe these dimensions are, maybe we can populate them. Maybe you can will an existence into existence.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the manifestation of what he wanted, which is this woman to be his wife. Maybe he made that for himself. So that I just thought was amazing. I loved the use of the kids from First Dimension visiting the hospital in their timeline where it's kind of bombed out and disused.
Yes, they were expecting to see her there, but actually they just felt her there. You know.
These two timelines kind of literally sat on top of one another or within one another was really clever. BB-8, remind me, I can't remember this, but she is some kind of medium. She has some
she's got whatever it takes to be able to sense it, whether it's an age thing or a maturity thing or having lost someone or whatever it is. Yeah, I never really got to grips.
They don't explain it, do they?
No, we never really explain why she's been bestowed with this kind of like this kind of power. But I guess from a plot point, it had to be one of them. There had to be like, they couldn't all have coincidentally from that same kind of like little town.
Yeah.
All of them. So it had to be
somebody said to her, it has to be you. You're the only one that can jump. Earlier in the season. That was the whole thing. But I sort of got the impression, they hadn't actually explained it, but that she had, you know, the sort of psychic equivalent of one of those stud detectors that you scan over the wall.
Yes.
You know,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's sort of like, I can just sense... Yeah.
So let's talk about... Sorry, come on.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about, like, aside from the kind of thematic conclusions that we drew from it, some plot things were explained, and we got an answer about the app and the game and the kids that were like lying in that room and stuff like that. So it transpired that it was like it's almost like a crowdsourcing solution to the puzzle. And the puzzle was that the circular window at the top, after having gone through all the rigmarole of getting to it, if you willed it enough, you could see through to the other dimension. And that other dimension was the film set? I got the
impression it was like...
It was whatever you wanted it to.
A dimension.
Right, okay. So
but in this instance, I think it's easier for us to sort of process it as like... So let's just give 3 rather than... But there's probably like a million, right?
So it was a jumping point that didn't require the moves.
Yeah. And that's what that woman said to Hap, though. She said, you know, you guys perform them manually. That's like quite cute. Like,
yeah, but that didn't require. But she still required something around her to visually perform, like those little things in the
little cubes.
And then Hap had his big statues moment
doing it. Yeah, I got the impression though that she sort of implied that there are people in other dimensions that have learnt to do it through different ways, and obviously we've seen it sort of literally done mechanically, but I sort of wondered if there are even more ways of doing it. But yeah, I mean the house is sort of a physical manifestation, like a location based.
Well, I wonder if we go back and look at all the things that they had to do in there, if they're some way related to the types of moves that...
I thought the tiles maybe correlated to shapes.
To that kind of... Yeah.
But you have to... But anyway, so Michelle... Buck goes through and No, Michelle solved the puzzle.
Michelle solved
goes
the puzzle.
through the window and then
Yes.
wakes up from their coma in Dimension 2, in which they have not transitioned and they're not a trans man.
That's right. And Kareem makes it to the window, looks through, and sees Michelle/Buck, and shouts to her, and then that's when she climbs up, and it all just goes.
And then, so that's Michelle, Dimension 3.
Yes.
Going to Dimension 2. So that establishes that they're not sort of linear. That they are.
You can go back. Yeah.
And up and down and like to 7 or 14 or whatever.
Yeah. We got an explanation about Riz Ahmed as well.
Yes.
His character. So he was hired by Nina, right?
Yes.
But not Nina from... This is where I got slightly confused. Not Nina from that dimension. Was it? Oh.
I thought...
because he was in Prairie's dimension, right?
Yeah.
The original one. So Prairie had hired him?
From another dimension.
From another dimension.
I got the impression he was sent to Dimension 1.
Right, okay.
As a sort of like... guardian.
As a guardian to kind of help her through. Okay.
Because I thought it was interesting that Riz wasn't in... Wait, was Riz in Season 2? Yes.
Yeah. But only as like an only he briefly appeared, didn't he, in one episode where he was like, "Didn't you ever wonder why don't you ask me why I was there?" or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is kind of slightly weird, where it's just like, well, okay, if she did hire you to kind of guide her, you did a really shitty job of it, I have to say.
Yeah, you were the one that like put the books in her house, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it was all sort of that one that made them all doubt themselves.
Yeah.
Kareem.
Kareem was a guide as well.
Yeah, so there's a sort of tier of these like spiritual constants in every dimension that seem to like get people to where. I mean, he literally broke her out the institution. Like Kareem literally connected the dots for her, and then not to speak of the woman in the woods that Kareem spoke to at the start of the season. I forget her whole deal, but she. Remember he went in the water or something?
Oh,
the woman in the wheelchair.
Oh, shit, yes, yeah. And she was like with the drones and the crows and, Yeah.
Well, I thought drones were going to be performing the movement at one point.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, that seems to me like you could control drones to do it, right? That would be,
So, question... And apologies to listeners because we are jumping around, but there's, hey,
seems fitting, doesn't it?
It's not linear. When Dr. Percy took Nina into the room that Rachel had gone into and died in, and there was the water tank where a very very Last of Us as well with the mushrooms and
cordyceps.
The cordyceps. We saw all of the gang. All of the kids and BB-8 dead, being kept alive in that tank.
Mm-hmm.
So they were all there in that dimension.
Yeah.
It's hurting my brain. So then they're all there in the third one. And, oh my God, it just fucks my head up so much.
Wait, but they're not all in. Steve goes to the third one.
Well, yes, but we must presume that they're all there somewhere. Because they have to be, right?
Steve... Well, I don't know. This is the thing. I mean,
he was dead. He was in the second tank. He was in the tank. He was also in.
So Steve jumped from Dimension 1 to Dimension 3, but maybe the others went to 2, and that's why they're in the pool. Steve's also in the pool, but
that's what I mean. So he's already there. He's there as well.
But I guess the point is that these things are happening simultaneously.
Yeah. I would have much rather. My only criticism was, yet again, is like they spent far too long chasing that fucking mirror across America.
Oh my God!
And not enough time talking about stuff like this, which is actually quite interesting. I'd have liked a bit of backstory on Percy.
I didn't need to know about BB-8's great uncle Arnold or whoever, or her sister, her cousin. Yeah. I'm like, is this relevant really? But what I liked about the second dimension is this idea of all the kids getting hooked on the algorithmic app.
Yeah.
Which we find out that Pierre, who is Nina's husband, played by Pete from Mad Men, he...
Oh my God, I forgot about Pete from Mad Men. Yes.
But he doesn't look... with the beard, he looks so different.
Yeah, but it must have been filmed. It was probably filmed around the same time.
Between seasons, maybe,
Must have
even,
been.
because...
it was a between seasons beard, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and also... I mean, he was in, 2 episodes, so that's a 3-week stint. He got the idea after a therapy session with Hap, right?
Yeah.
Which is just so... That's what Nina finds out. She's like, wait, you told him to do this? This was your idea? That, gassing everyone is, getting them into the house, gassing them, and then sort of training them is all part of his idea to sort of mass produce sweatshop version.
But then that is Dr. Percy telling him to do that, because it's a mirror of what he did in Dimension 1 with the 5 kids, where locked them in a house, drained them, gassed them, killed them in order to find the path.
So we have to wonder in season 1, in Dimension 1, how is it that Hap came to this cabin in the woods? He was working in the city, so who knows who he came into contact with where he thought, oh my God, this sort of cavernous...
This is what we would have found out. You can... Right. Give me your elevator pitch for what Part 3 was.
So, okay, I have some thoughts about this. So first of all, I think Season 3 and potentially 4 have to look different in terms of its makeup. So I think for the first time, you have a dimension that lasts more than one season, because otherwise it's going to get a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
And I think you split it so you have Dimension 3 and a Dimension 4.
Yeah.
And I think Prairie, OA, whatever, realises she's married to Hap in this one, and it is about accepting that her job is not to get away from him. But...
I think there were probably 5 seasons, 5 dimensions.
I think so too. But I think you have to fuck with the format at this point.
Yeah.
We talked on Succession about how they did something audacious in the new episode, and it was not what they did, but the way that they did it, which was in the middle of an episode, no fanfare, no speeches, no monologue.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think that's what they'd have to do. So whether there's a dimension, 2 dimensions in one season or 1 dimension over 2 seasons, I think that would be really good. But I think it would be maybe actually, in order to make everything happen that needs to happen, them having to cast the show, finding people to play BB-8, finding people to play Buck. Oh, we really want to get French. French has killed himself in this dimension, so we have to find. And I think you'd have a really good time getting this layered. Okay, you're gonna, maybe they perform lines from season 1, but it's in Dimension 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Almost like noises off kind of thing. Yeah.
Did you see? I mean, you haven't watched BoJack Horseman.
No, I haven't.
But in season 5, there's a sort of season-long storyline where they make a pretentious crime drama for a streaming service, and it's set in the director, who's played by Rami Malek, chooses the most depressing set he can find for a Hollywood house, and it's a direct replica of BoJack's house, and he basically plays himself. And so the show and his life, he struggles to learn the difference between the two, and they do this amazing episode that is a bottle episode of the fake show, but it's actually him having a psychotic episode where he can't differentiate between his life. It's really clever, and I could see something like that working really well in OA.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? What are your
I think nothing really specific other than I think it all circles round. I think the end of their end vision was the fact that this is infinite and circular and cyclic, and that maybe we see them get so far away for themselves that actually they jump back and they find they're in Dimension 1 and living through it all again, or maybe whoever Hap is in a different dimension telling Hap how to kind of like giving him a teaser of a clue, because Hap obviously doesn't know that much about anything in Dimension 1, but someone must have teased him with something in order for him to kind of go, okay, maybe I need to do this. So maybe he witnessed something, a bit Back to the Future 2 kind of thing. Maybe he's in the background of a different dimension. I don't know, but something like that. I'm not fucking clever enough, otherwise I'd have written it. It's like,
but it is interesting though, isn't it, that like every other dimension he's gained greater. Maybe the individual has to travel through all their dimensions. You know, so he happened to be in season 1 not particularly clued up, but by 3. He's far more fluent in all of this. But yeah, it was such a shame that it's not, it just doesn't get to come out to fruition. Can we talk about the cordyceps quickly? The mushrooms growing out of people's ears. So when they were dreaming, these roots come out of their ears, and they're sort of harvesting that. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, you saw.
That's why Hap eats a petal.
Yeah.
I thought that.
But they all had to consume something, don't they? That's there's the starfish. There was the bird.
Oh, I see. So you think that was the sort of
maybe that was Hap's thing? Maybe, I don't know.
My theory was that the petals, again, they'd sort of been able to mass produce the mental experience
to get into the state. Yeah, that would.
And
make
in
sense.
order, the reason Hap was able to move with conviction was because he'd sort of. If what they've been doing is sort of microdosing, he'd sort of OD'd on the stuff, basically.
Yeah.
But I can't quite remember, just because it was a couple of weeks ago, that the roots come out of everybody when they're...
Well, they all seem to kind of converge into this kind of like water lily moss kind of like network, didn't they? Which we know from cordyceps from Last of Us and fucking Avatar, that that is what they do, isn't it? That's the communication. That's the communicator.
But is it what they were subjected to that made that happen? Did those grow out of them, or was it a natural response to being in that sort of? Because they weren't zombified, but they were forced into like catatonic states so that they could constantly dream. Is that right?
So Time Magazine did a debrief of it, and I'm just reading it verbatim. So. Hap is keeping French, Scott and Steve and a few other teens we first met in season 1 who lay comatose in a pool where the sprouting flowers from their brains. The invisible river is Dr. Percy's big breakthrough. After much time studying interdimensional travel, together the bodies are his map because they contain every possible reality. And it comes with a hell of a perk. By eating the petals plucked from these flowers, Dr. Percy can preview the dimension to which he's about to journey before he jumps to it.
Right, okay. Amazing.
So that changes everything. So Dr. Percy...
Thank you for your service.
So Dr. Percy tries to convince OA that the setup is copacetic, whatever that word means. Do you know what that word means?
Copacetic?
Copacetic. I've never heard that name before.
Copacetic.
Look up copacetic. It means in excellent order. So he tries to convince OA that everything's fine because he says that the kids are all living their best lives in alternate dimensions. Naturally, she's not keen on that.
Yes, this was really crucial. Yes. Yeah. He said it's okay that they're suffering here because in every other dimension they're not.
Yeah.
And that this is why I think season 3 might have been about them coexisting, because OA hasn't learnt that yet. Yes, we're in opposition in some dimensions.
Yeah.
But it's only because we're harmonised in others. And every dimension has that push and pull. In fact, she might actually, as a sort of byproduct of that, be antagonistic with Homer in the next dimension. That is part of the sacrifice or something like that.
So he actually says he's going to take her to a place where he and the OA are a couple of lovebirds. In this zone, as we know, Dimension 3... She apparently remembers his evil doing, but doesn't believe his exploitative actions actually happened.
In 3?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it's just like... I could be reading this. We could be reading this about a completely different show for it. It's crazy.
But it's so amazing. I just feel like it's done with so much confidence.
Well, it's more than just a whiteboard and post-it notes on the wall, isn't it? It's, there are, we talk about backstory and, like with our Game of Thrones pods and stuff about how much George goes into detail about fucking cities and whatnot for chapters on end. But you get the same from this, is that if you were to sit down with them all and say, well, how can you explain this? They'd have like an amazing theological and spiritual reason for everything, and it's all been thought through, and there's no plot holes. I loved it. It was great. Really.
The thing I wonder is like what the driving kind of goal is for the show once, the whole point was like, I think I can jump into the dimension, and then she did it, and then the second season was kind of like, I need to understand how I did it or why I did it, and now we sort of know that. I wonder like what the show is, and I do think because it's very religious, it's rooted in a lot of religious practice. There seems to be a convergent idea about like, okay, now you've achieved what you were supposed to achieve, like how do you continue to get fulfillment out of your life? Yeah.
And I think the introduction of Kareem and the revelation about Riz Ahmed's character, about them being shepherds, like guides, is something that would probably have been explored more as well.
It's so good.
We'll never know, or will we? I think there is a case for this to come back.
I would say that it is a testament to the power of the show that I started like thinking about it a lot, and I've been on Reddit all the time the last fortnight.
Yeah.
And people are like, it makes sense though for like it to come back as a different show. Because they're doing this show with Emma Corrin.
Yeah.
For Amazon or something.
Didn't I start... Hang on a sec. I started reading the book? No, hang on. I started reading... Did we not discuss a book called The Third Body? Do you remember?
The Three Body Problem?
Yes. Didn't we?
That's a different show. Is that what they're working on?
No, hang on a second. No, it may be the same conversation, but we went off onto IMDb on a pod, and so I've started reading that. It's fucking amazing.
Well, they're doing something with Emma Corrin, and I'm convinced. And this is how like brainwashed I am. I'm like, it's the third season of the OA, but they've not told Amazon, they've not told Emma. Like everyone is just like, we've got this new edgy sort of sci-fi drama, but everyone who knows is going to know that it's the OA. And I thought this about a week ago.
Love that.
And I was like, oh my God, they've got to me. I've been completely
You've been
brainwashed by the show. Because isn't that the most like ridiculous idea? But I just thought,
just the cheekiest as well.
Just being like, they would never confirm it, but you're like, oh my God, imagine if this just was the third season, but it's just called something else. I think that would be really great. Amazing.
Yeah, I'd be down with that.
And I just think the fact that, and I feel red-pilled. I feel like I've taken, I'm just like, I see the world for what it is now.
Hap is your Andrew Tate.
Yeah. I'm just like, the power of the show. It's honestly, I'm 20% doing it as a bit, but 80%, honestly, I feel like it could work. And it would actually be the cleverest thing to happen in modern
100%.
To just
the cheek of doing it on a different channel as well, different streaming service.
But if I was Amazon, I'd be like, this is the greatest thing to happen to us. So anyway, any TV developing executives listening, just give Brit Marling a show.
Just give her a bag of money.
It could be anything you want.
Yeah.
If you want it to be like a Wild Western,
it will go down in the pantheon of. It will go down in the pantheon of amazing television shows just because of the concept.
Just do a sort of fly on the wall documentary starring Brit Marling. And then in the final episode, it's like, this is also a dimension in that way.
She looks up at the end. As Louis Theroux is leaving, Louis Theroux looks up and sees Kareem staring through a circular window. That's what we want.
That's what we want.
That's what we want.
That's what we deserve, Jamie.
It is. Well done. I'm so glad you enjoyed that. I'm really pleased with how the past couple of months with that has gone. And thanks to, we've had loads of people getting in touch who...
So many.
Both... had never watched it and joined us for the journey, but also people that have come on a rewatch and enjoyed hearing Chris watch it for the first time. It's been great fun.
It's been so good.
We will at some point think of another one and another kind of like lost classic to kind of watch. We don't know what yet. I think we've had a few thoughts, but we don't know when. I guess is the more thing. So
I think what we found though was that it was hard to do 3, so it might be
2 is
once
doable.
We've done Thrones.
Yeah, I think we need to take a bit of a break and
regroup a bit.
Yeah, 100%. And but if you've got any suggestions, I would say get in touch. I don't want another Game of Thrones type show.
I think it needs to be really different to Thrones, and I think it needs to be really different to OA. So
I don't think, The Walking Dead's not going to cut it. Witcher isn't going to cut it. Last Kingdom's not going to cut it. We were leaning towards Severance, but there are various reasons why that might not happen.
We can't get into that yet, but it's not that I'm working on it either. What I would say, though, is if... the one, not necessarily for a rewatch, but if people are in the mood for a new show, the final season of Barry starts next week.
I need to watch that, yes.
Bill Hader is sort of like similar to Breaking Bad, but it's funny as fuck.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it's really sad. It's just brilliant. It's a hitman who ends up training as an improv comedian.
Wow. Okay.
That's the nut graph, right?
Oh, great.
He is sort of PTSD'd the fuck out. He wants to get out of the hitman business, and he takes up improv classes, and he wants to be an actor. And the two things, he has this burgeoning acting career, but he's also a
hitman. Oh,
it's really, really good. And I think it's 3 seasons are out already. If people need something, just crack on with it. It's on now. It's really just outstanding. And
great.
There are things that, like sequences, directing, the way they shoot it, the way they play with it.
Yeah.
One of the best things, and it's so underrated. So that's one. But we'll have a think. We'll figure something out. And don't worry, we're not ignoring the HBO event that happened last night as we were recording it, with like a whole load of revelations. We'll discuss all those in Dragoncast next week. But until then, this is it. Goodbye until Brit does her big reveal, which I'm sure will happen at some point. Yeah. I look forward. I think in the next dimension we might not have a podcast together, but I will find you.
Yeah, find me. I'll be in the ambulance somewhere. Yeah.
I'll ride after. I'm not actually very good on a bike, but I will try and keep up.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Farewell, OA, Prairie, Nina. You've been amazing.